Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode on Laid Back the Atrezinga podcast. And with me here today is Jana. How are you, Jana?
Hey, I'm well, thank you. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm good. So, do you want me to introduce you as a psychologist, or do you want me to introduce you as the beauty queen? Which one would you prefer?
You are something else. I mean, they're both a part of my identity. It's your choice. You do what you want to do.
Okay, Jana. Jana is a former Miss Bermuda, but she's also a psychologist, and we met during our doctoral studies in Bristol. How are you, Jana?
I'm well, thank you. I didn't even think you remember that. That is so funny.
Well,
But yes.
well, I remember everything, to be fair.
No, goodness.
So today we're going to talk about self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So Jana is a psychologist, and she's the best person to talk about this with. So let's start off. Jana, what do you think about self-awareness?
What do I think about it? So, self-awareness is about kind of having that conscious knowledge about yourself, about the things that you do, about your thinking patterns, the way that you behave. If I was to sum that up, like that is what I consider self-awareness to be, really being clear. It's who am I? Of course, we're always evolving, always growing, but just having a real genuine sort of understanding of who you are, like consciously understanding who you are.
Yeah. Fair. But now that you've said that, a friend used to tell me back in the day that a lot of people do not know themselves. Do you believe that, or do you think a lot of people know themselves and just a few people are struggling to find themselves? What do you think?
I think that a lot of us do not know ourselves, and I think the reason why, I think we have an understanding of different parts of ourselves, but I don't think that a lot of us are taught to know ourselves for real at the core.
But do you think? Hold on. When you say we weren't taught to know ourselves at the core, I think it's something. Self-discovery and self-exploration is something you have to do for yourself. I don't really think anybody has to teach you that. Or am I missing anything here?
Okay, so let me tell you this. So we grow up, especially depending on what generation we grew up in.
Yeah.
We may have grown up with parents who were people of, do what I say, right? I said do this, so this is what you have to do. Bang. So you do it, right? You don't really have space to be able to think about what is it that I want to do. And you're a child, right? So people's like, children should do as they're told. This is how it is. In our house, this is what the religion is. In our house, this is what time, we eat our meals, and this is the meals we eat, right?
Yeah.
So we're taught to behave a certain way. So it's all of that nurture, right? That's what it is. So what I'm saying is, in some households, conversations might look a little bit different. So imagine a household where children are like, they get to come home, from their day at school and sit down, and parents ask really open questions about the day. Oh, wow, how did you feel about that? Well, when the teacher was teaching that subject, what were you thinking when you were really struggling with that question on a regular basis, right? And helping them to really be in touch with what's going on with them. Asking them questions like, were you like tense in your body? You know what I mean? When the other child on the playground was saying something, was that anger? We don't even name those emotions all the time for children. So what I'm saying is, growing up, some people are taught to be more self-aware, and some people are taught to do as I say, and then they get into adulthood or later on, as young adults, or maybe possibly within, the adolescent years, and they may start to have more self-discovery, but it's not something from an early age that people are taught. That's all I'm saying. So yes, you do still have to, even beyond that time, as you grow, you're going to change, right? You're going to have new experiences, you'll meet new people, you'll travel to new places. But I think it's a skill set. I really think it's a skill set that's not taught.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But, when you say that, because I think when you say that, that puts a lot of pressure on the parents, don't you think? Because, for example, just look at us now. We're all grown up now. We're all adults, and everybody's adulting, and we know how hard it is. You go out there to see your clients, and you come back so tired. When you have a child and you have children, and you're talking to them, and your child is telling you about this thing that happened, yes, you pay attention. But do you think you're going to go deep into that conversation to say, were you feeling this? Were you feeling that? I know you. Don't get me wrong. You pay attention to your child, but because you've had a long day yourself, do you think you go into deep to actually say this is the emotion you were feeling, or do you think it's something you're going to have a conversation with the child later on to actually let the to help the child process what he or she was feeling at the moment at that time?
Okay, so let me just get to this. I think that's a bigger problem, right? So some of this is a bigger problem. Some of this is more environment, it's more systemic. Why are we having such long drained days that we can't come home and have proper conversations with our children? I'm just saying, right? Let's just be honest. Like, there are bigger things that cause us to be so drained. Everybody financially has to take care of themselves, all that type of stuff. So I think we have systemic issues that are going on that are so much bigger than what's happening within your household, right? So I'm just putting that out there, and that's where other changes that are bigger than within the house really have to change, you know, so that people are able to kind of financially support themselves. Our bodies are run down, we're broken down. So when we come home, we're not in a position to really teach our children because somebody taught us that same lifestyle. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there. That's an issue. So for me, when I think about the whole idea of coming home, do I really think that, you know, parents are really doing that, really have time to do that? No. And that's a problem. But I'm not blaming the parent per se. What I'm saying is, if we have an opportunity, okay, to start to think about it a little bit differently, we will be positioned to teach children differently. So that, yeah, we're in adulthood now, so we've been actively on our journey. But could you imagine if we were more self-aware or had that space, or even beyond us, more people had that opportunity as children to really learn themselves? That doesn't mean there isn't structure. That doesn't mean, you know, there aren't rules and, you know, discipline and stuff like that. But understanding who they are as a person. Don't you think that they will be different adults?
I agree, but
yeah.
So I agree, but I'm going to liken this to science since I'm a scientist, because there's something we call but I know you've heard about this. There's this debate about nature and nurture.
Yeah.
Whether the gene plays more important role in how we develop or the environment. And I feel like it's an interplay between the two factors, actually, genetic and environmental factors. And what I'm trying to say here is, yes, the parents will try as much as possible to try their best. And it's not so easy for them, to be fair. I know myself, like growing up, I know a lot of things. My parents tried as much as possible to make me have a comfortable life. I have no reason to complain, honestly. I'm just saying. But still, there are certain things I felt that I would have liked them to teach me, but I ended up learning on my own as well. So when you say that, and they say the parents they need to pay more attention, and they need to, but like for example, there's this thing I tell my family members or anybody who's close to me, they know I say this. You know, when somebody's complaining to you about someone else, yeah, I do this to people a lot. People who are close to me will tell you this. There's a point you complain, you go over, but next thing I'm going to tell you, you now sound like a hater. What I'm trying to tell you now is, what you are feeling right now is not anger anymore, or maybe because of resentment of what the person did to you. Now it is envy and jealousy. That's what I want to try to tell you there. I will not point it out, but what I'm trying to tell you there is now it is anger and jealousy. You see what I mean? It's jealousy and envy. That's what you are actually projecting at this point. But I would not point it out. It's now left for you to be self-aware and know that's what I'm actually talking about. But most of the time, I just tell you, you now sound like a hater. And that's what I mean. The point I'm
Wait, what? Wait, hold on. I want to make sure I'm clear. Because,
for example, let's say you come to me now and you are complaining to me about someone else, and you complain and go overboard. Maybe start talking about something that doesn't relate to what's making you angry. Like there's a way you complain. Next thing I just turn and tell you, do you know you now sound like a hater? Because now you are mentioning everything that's you don't like about the person. Now it's not really about the person anymore. I think you are now hating on the person. It's now jealousy or envy about what the person has, about a particular thing you're focused on. Maybe the person is richer than you, more successful than you, has drives a better car, whatever as the case may be. You realize some people don't know when they switch into that mood, and they start telling you maybe the person has the person's relationship with a partner is looks more fun loving or whatever. You see what I mean? They don't know when they switch.
So I think you further prove my point. My point is that we aren't taught to really acknowledge our full range of emotions. And that's just as simple as that. So then we end up in these relationships and we seem like a hater. And relationships not even just intimate, but in friendships, you know, with colleagues, whatever the case may be. So we seem like a hater, right? Because we haven't been able to.
But when you think about it, Jenna, if someone else is doing the same thing to us, we will know that that emotion is actually bad. So why can't we recognize it in ourselves? That's the thing I don't understand.
Well, how you want them to recognize it? How do you think people should recognize it in themselves?
I don't know. Okay, I do a lot of introspection. If I fuck up, honestly, if I feel like, okay, do you know what? I messed up with this person. I can actually go back and try to mend it and be friends with the person. I do that because I know I fucked up. You see what I mean?
Where did you learn that? How did you
learn it on my own
to repair relationships? How did you learn that?
Because I learned it on my own. It's still part of self-awareness and introspection and learning to be who you are. It's all about self-discovery. So that's why I feel
nobody taught you to repair relationships growing up?
Not really.
So then there was like some childhood stuff on the playground. There was no adult in your life who was like, listen, this is how we handle relationships. Like sometimes things don't go according to plan. Somebody has that conversation with a lot of us, not all of us, growing up.
I don't really remember.
Come on, we're two scientists here talking about nature and nurture. No, look.
Yeah, no. Like understand the thing, yeah. Growing up, I was a popular kid, kind of. Primary school, whatever. But I had a lot of friends. I would say a lot. Like some people you didn't even want to be friends with. Not that you don't want to, but you know when you're popular, everybody wants to be your friend, kind of.
Yeah.
So and maybe dealing with a lot of people, I learned to understand that people come around you for different reasons. It's maybe because you're popular, or maybe they think you're smart, or maybe they think you're this, or maybe they think you're that, whatever the case may be. So whenever I say something and I feel like maybe the person is not smart enough, and I feel like I've hurt the person's ego because I'm making the person feel bad, the person knowing it, I feel like I'm hurting the person, I hurt the person's intellect, I try to step back and try as much as possible to amend the situation. Amend the situation and try as much as possible to amend a relationship. But that's why I take more I put more time into not saying much, because I don't want to hurt the person, because the way I say it might actually come off wrong and the person might take it the wrong way. I might say something because once I've noticed it, I don't know why. If someone thinks you are smarter than them, there's something you say, even though you don't mean bad, the person will start thinking you're actually being condescending to them, because the person has really placed you somewhere. I don't know why. For example, let's say when you were the beauty queen, if you go out there's something you tell another young girl, like in deep down in your mind, you are not trying to berate the young girl or be nasty to the young girl, but there's a way you say, she's being condescending to me. Is it because she is the queen? You see what I mean? You didn't even mean to. You didn't even mean to. So
but go ahead.
No, the point I'm trying to make is I had to get to that point of self-awareness to understand that my words actually have an impact on people.
Right.
So I tried as much as possible to think about it and just listen more to people and not say much, just to understand how they think before I say anything. Because what I say can actually come off the wrong way, and it will spiral down, and it might actually affect them in one way or the other. So what I'm trying to say is, even though I've had that, but I realize a lot of people do not also know that their words can be very, very toxic towards other people. So it's part of self-awareness. because I did that work, I don't think anybody taught me that. It's something like, when you have experience and you meet a lot of people over time and you start like trying as much as possible to understand why this thing happens and why this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's just you using the experience to actually understand yourself. But
yeah, of course. I would agree. But okay, so I'm gonna go back, right? So you use the example of me. Okay, so yes, I'm a pageant winner, and giving an advice and all those sorts of things, right? So somebody may respond. Let's imagine it's two other girls, two other women potentially. Someone may respond with that jealousy, like, oh, that's because she won, that's why she's acting like that, or that's why she's speaking to me in the way that she's speaking. It may sound condescending, or whatever the case may be, right? Yeah. And another person standing right next to her, same age range, may hear the exact same conversation and respond differently, because we have different experiences in life. So we respond based off of whatever our experiences, our understanding, our worldview is, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, yes, that is something that we learn. That is something that we grow to understand more often, right? As we put in that work. But what I'm getting at is that usually there's some type of experience or some type of exposure to that knowledge, that self-awareness knowledge, that helps us to get to that place. Because two people could respond very differently based off of the understanding, right? Yeah. And some people don't put in, that work. So they could be, 40, 50, 60 and have always told the same story about their life. So that's all they stick to, right? So you talked about haters and all of that type of stuff. Like, if that's the story you keep telling yourself about how people view you and how you view others, and it's something negative, then that's what it will always be till you choose to rewrite your story and start to see things differently. And as a part of rewriting your story, it's increasing your self-awareness so you can understand why you keep telling that negative story. Right. But what I'm still getting back at, while I think there's a little bit of, now I taught myself, that to be self-aware, I still am a believer that if somebody modeled self-aware behavior for you in childhood, it would be a lot different for you as you grow into adulthood. You wouldn't have to put in that same amount of work to start to teach yourself to identify emotions, to be able to start to be more aware of your thinking and your behaviors, because somebody would have modeled it. And until we start to think about it being our responsibility for the next generation, then we just pass down what was passed to us from a point of self-awareness and be like, well, you figure it out as you go. Like, is that really what we want to leave? You know what I mean? Or do we want to try to model behavior differently so it is a little bit different for them? That doesn't mean they still don't have to go on the self-awareness journey. It's just teaching them to say, yo, what is it that you're really thinking? Oh, wow. What is it that you're really feeling? Okay, how do you respond? Like, what is your behaviors that you do when you are guilty, when you're afraid? And naming that. We don't walk around naming that. There's no way you could tell me that most of us walk around naming our true emotion, especially in conversation with others. We may not do it on our own, but a lot of us don't walk around and have that conversation with our friends, with our partners. We don't do that with our family. We don't do it.
Interesting. But, I think you made a good point here, because I went on this cleansing journey recently. Right. And I told myself, for every negative thought, I have to push the way for a positive thought. Like when you're just there and just negative thought just pop into your mind.
Right.
You try as much as possible to just ignore it and just focus on the positive. Right. And I realized it's actually just like you said, it's part of self-awareness, because it's not easy. You have to be self-aware to know that is what you're thinking now is negative, and it can actually affect your emotions, and emotions are going to what are going to show outwardly are going to be negative emotions. Right. See what I mean? So
but I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why did you do that? Why, for every negative thought, did you replace it with a positive thought? Just curious. Like, what made you want to do that?
Because I don't think negativity takes anybody anywhere. It doesn't take you anywhere. That's what I feel.
Right.
Negativity doesn't take you anywhere, because I realize negativity is the easy road. It's easy to be negative, but the positive is the hard one, and I always choose the hard part, unfortunately. But because if you, like I said, I think I told you earlier on, if something happens, the first thing that pops up in our mind without even knowing is a negative thought, and I don't understand why.
It's a negative automatic thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's calling that.
This is something I've taken time to actually think, like to observe. And I keep asking myself, why is it that the first thought that actually pops up in our head is always a negative one? Why? I don't get it. I don't understand.
So I have a question. Another question. Did you stop to try to make sense of the negative thought before replacing it?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do. Yeah.
I'm only saying that, right? Because the negative automatic thoughts come, and I think, we have to be able to find an alternative thought, right? And the more we engage in that behavior, it is helpful. But the only reason I ask that is because sometimes we become dismissive of whatever that thought is. We become so dismissive of it versus being able to sit with it for a second and say, all right, why is this really coming up? Before we go on to replace it, right? Because it helps us to get to the root of it, and then we start to think that way less because we've actually made more sense of it. We've given the space to acknowledge it versus trying to continue to push it out of our minds and dismiss it and just be like, no, I'm not allowed to think like that. I don't have permission to think like that. No, like, why is it? Because chances are there's something that's triggering that's creating that negative automatic thought. And we have been so conditioned to say, you can't think negative, you gotta think positive. You can't think negative, you gotta think positive. And fair enough, right? Because that's how we get on with life. But there's a reason it's coming up. And that's actually more work to continue to try to push it out versus saying, all right, what's up? And look, like, figure out what is the thought. Like, okay, what's up with this thought? All right, where is it coming from? And you may have that aha moment. Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize it was because of that. And that thought will come up last, if even at all, once we've really made sense of it and then created an alternative thought. But a lot of us are taught to keep pushing these things out. And I'm going to tell you, that's a reason why we fall into a lot of anxiety and depression, is because we start to engage in that avoidance types of behavior. We avoid it versus saying, all right, what is it? Getting the support we need. And the support we need could be within ourselves. I'm not saying it always has to be a mental health professional. It could be just saying, oh, wow, I'm thinking this way because I was still hurt from that experience. And every time this comes up, it triggers that thought in my mind. Wow, okay, I'm going to address that.
Interesting. But
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, because what you just said, there's this book I read a while ago, I think 2, 3, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't know. Have you read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? Have you ever read that book before?
Yeah. I haven't. I'm not a cover to cover reader, but
but if you read the beginning part, you understand what I mean. You remember where he was saying something about being positive all the time is not a good thing, and I think that's what you're just trying to say, because he was saying people will tell you always be positive, blah 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 blah. It doesn't make any sense. That you have to, when you feel bad or there's any negative emotion, allow yourself to feel it and understand why you feel it.
Yeah,
that's what he was trying to say in the book. That it doesn't mean that you don't have to care about anybody, but just care about people who matter. But know why you feel what you feel. That's that's what the book is all about. And
exactly.
I think it's just the same thing you just said, because you have a point. Because when we feel bad and something is happening, instead of dwelling on it, because the bad part is you dwelling on it because you don't know. The reason why I try to push that, because once you start dwelling on it, it's hard for you to let it go, because you're not dwelling on the rubbish. But once you switch into something positive, now you say, okay, do you know what? Let's just move on with our lives. Life goes on. But so, do you think a lot of people are aware of their positive thoughts and not aware of their negative thoughts, or like negative emotions, like we're talking about emotions? Or do you think they're just aware of the negative emotions and not so aware of the positive?
So I do, it's tricky, right? Everybody's very different. And I think that a lot of us are aware of our negative thoughts, and we stay within that cycle of negativity. Not always intentionally, but that becomes our story, right? There may be a lot of reasons why people want to hear gossip. People like hearing gossip,
yeah, that's
right?
true. That's
So,
true, yeah.
and there's a whole probably science behind all of that, but people enjoy gossip. They enjoy the negative story, and that's I think a lot of our we don't have healthy self-esteem sometimes as people, as communities. Our self-esteem isn't healthy, and so what happens is we like to stay within that negative cycle. I often sit with my clients and I ask, well, how long would we like to tell this negative story? And it's like, pause, like, what? I'm like, wow, we've been telling this story for a while. Like, I've only known you for, however long, but you've been probably telling this story for a number of years of a negative experience in your life, right? And it's almost like until somebody says that to you, you're like, oh my goodness, this negative story has been owning me for a long time. You know what I mean? And so I think a lot of us, I don't think we enjoy the negative story. I think it's what we know. Sometimes it feels safe. We don't have spaces to really celebrate the positive stories in our lives as often as we like. Like, how many of us really have friend circles where we feel like our friends genuinely celebrate us and celebrate our positivity? We don't have that. How many of us even forget friends, family? These were our first friends, right?
Yeah.
How many feel like family, like, really is rooting for you? I mean, we could identify the family members that we know really are, but like, there's some jealousy even within family, right? So it's like you aren't given those spaces to always have a positive story, and to share this positive story and to connect with those positive thoughts and have those healthy relationships. So we get conditioned to be in this negative story, right? Like, where we draw the line with that. And so we have to draw that line for ourselves after a certain point and say, nah, that story no longer belongs to me. That doesn't mean we don't have to work through where that story came from and how it's shaped our lives, right? Because we do. And people could say what they like. It's a lot of hard work putting in that work after you've told that negative story for so long. But it's possible to rewrite that story. And that's where self-awareness comes in versus being dismissive of what's really happening, but acknowledging it. So going back to the same book, like I said, I haven't read it cover to cover, but that's my philosophy. That's how I work. I sit with it like, okay, cool. Why are we beating ourselves up for having this negative automatic thought? No, not on my watch. We're not doing that. We're going to sit with it. We're going to make sense of it. We're going to acknowledge it. And then we're going to work through it. And then you'll notice there will be more positive thoughts. And you won't beat yourself up for having the negative automatic thought. You'll know where it's coming from. You might even gently be able to smile and say, that story don't belong to me no more. And you'll move on so much faster.
True. You have a point there. True.
Yeah. So, it's so important. But I think I still go back to, it would be amazing if we could start to teach this more often. And by teaching it, I mean allowing the space for this. So forget, we don't even have to talk about children and parents, right? We can talk about it in our friend circles, right? Can we give our friends that space to be honest with us and us not be judgmental? A lot of us can't.
True.
A lot of us don't offer that space to others, and we are as humans, we enjoy companionship. That doesn't mean we don't enjoy alone time, right? We enjoy companionship. We enjoy conversation with others. We heal in conversation with others in safe spaces. Our story starts to change. But if we're not given that, and our friends are negative thinkers and talkers and speakers, and that don't mean they're not happy going people, but when we're in conversation with them, if it's always the downside of every story and it's always the gossip and it's always the latest trash, then we're not growing. And we're not really healing and increasing our self-awareness. We're staying in a negative cycle. We're just getting older. We're just getting older each day. But that doesn't mean our emotional intelligence, that doesn't mean that we're growing as people. We could study as much as we want about what's going on in society, but are we growing as people, or are we still telling the same story but we just know a lot more?
You have a point there. No. The thing that you said about friends, family, for example, I don't know what it's like out there in Nigeria.
Right.
If you tell an African parent you want to do something, their default setting is to poke holes in your plans. I don't know why.
Right.
It's always negative. It's always to poke holes in your plans. Are you sure this is gonna work? Are you sure? Like, they don't like you taking it. They always want you to take the safe route. I don't know if it's the same thing over there. They always take it. They always want you to take the safe route. This is so risky. Are you sure you're gonna survive it? Are you sure you can do this? Are you sure you can do that?
Yeah. But let's be honest, right? It's a reason why. But go ahead.
Yeah. So what do you think is the reason? Let's start from there.
So you're talking about that in Nigeria. I think that happens in Bermuda. It may happen within certain cultures, within certain ethnicities, races. It may happen just with people in general. I can't speak for everybody, but we have to be safe, right? And a lot of that conversation, do you think it's more financial based? Like when it's poking holes in the story, it's like, are you going to be able to take care of yourself? And it's usually some money trail. So job, career, entrepreneurship. You think that's the holes that are poked? Like, it's about that?
I think it's about money as well, because I don't know if it's just about money. It's just that parents are always, for some reason, African parents, they always want you to take the safe route. I don't know why.
Yeah. But why?
I don't know why.
But wouldn't they? Wouldn't that make sense though? Like, let's think about our history, right? Wouldn't our parents and grandparents, and older adults in our lives want us to be safe? Wouldn't they want us to make decisions that ensure that we don't have to struggle?
True.
You know what I mean? Like, and so is it poking holes in our story, or is it their fear being projected onto us? So words mean things with me, right? Like, I'm big on let's choose the words to tell our story as best as we can. I think that, yes, it could be poking holes in our story, and a lot of it could be them projecting their fears of the unknown onto us because they want the best for us and they don't know how else to do it. They don't understand. So for me, entrepreneurship. So I have my own business. I have my own practice. And I got up and quit a government job. Like, people was looking at me like, what? Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to pay bills? Are you sure you're making the right decision? And do I think that they, in the inside, wanted to support me and wanted the best for me? I do. And I recognize that their story of what we could term as possibly poking holes, but also their fears, their worries, their concern about my safety, and my safety being financially being able to take care of myself, it was valid. But sometimes we don't always have the right words to share, to know, because of our own generation that we came up in. So they would have come up in a generation where, things were tough, they were hard.
But the point I'm trying to make here is, because the parents are always trying to poke holes in your plans, make sure family where anything the parents say goes, it will affect you into adulthood. Because you are so used to authority that you're so used to them shutting down your plans, negativity, and it will be very hard for you to actually come out of that route, because you're used. So you also need self-awareness to recognize that fact and say, okay, do you know what? I need to do my own thing. There's something I used to tell my younger siblings, and my parents didn't like me for it, but it's true. I told them, if you really want to be yourself and get to understand yourself, you have to be a rebel, and you have to sometimes rebel against the parents' plans. Like, do your own thing, so that if you make mistakes, you can actually acknowledge, I fucked up. You can't blame your parents. You fucked up. Like, maybe for example, let's say you want to become an entrepreneur and your parents tell you, no, you can't do it, you can't do this. For example, you have your own business you're right now, Jana, So imagine when you wanted to start your business and your parents were like, I don't think you can do it. But you have to take that risk so that if it doesn't work out, you tell yourself, I'm the one that I took that risk. It didn't work out. It's my own fault, not another person's fault. You are the one that did it, not your parents, not someone else. Then you can actually sit and then self-reflect and ask yourself, okay, do you know what? Where did I go wrong and how can I make it better if I'm going to do it again? This is what I mean.
Yeah.
But
it's like
and whenever I say that to my siblings, my parents get so annoyed and they're like, you are teaching them bad things. But I don't think so. I feel like it's part of self-awareness. You have to actually be a rebel and say, do you know what?
Maybe it's because you're using the word rebel.
What?
Maybe it's because you're using the word rebel. They're like, don't use the word rebel.
Well, it is what it is, because if the parents want a certain things to go in a certain way and you choose to go about it the other way, you are rebelling. You're like a renegade.
Yeah.
It's okay, but the parents wouldn't like you, but in the end they will respect you. That's one thing I know. They will not like you, but they will respect you, because at the end of the day, they don't really want you to be under their care and authority for life. It's just that they want to. They are so used to trying as much as possible. They will try as much as possible to protect you. And I said, I said, you know what? Just take your own risk. If it doesn't work, that's fine. You feel down, but you get back on your feet. It's okay. At least you know yourself. Now you can tell yourself, okay, you know what? This is what I'm capable of. It's part of self-awareness. This is what I'm capable of. I can do this. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. I'm good at I'm a people's person. I'm not a people's person. I'm good at talking. I'm good at writing. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. You know yourself.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, doing that, you will tell you this is who you are. You don't need anybody else to come and tell you, okay, this is who I am. This is who I'm not.
Nah, that's what I mean. I agree. And you know what? That makes me think, like, okay, so it makes me think about voices, right? We all have a lot of voices in our head, and the voices start from early on in childhood. So it could be parents' voices, teachers' voices, other children, on the playground's voices. They start to shape our narrative as we develop, right? Because I was going back to earlier, I was saying how we grow and learn in conversation with others and connections with others. So the voices around us start to shape our voice. And then as we get to a certain age and point, we have to recognize what voices are no longer serving us well and what voices we want to start to replace, right? And that's when we start to read new books, we start to listen to new podcasts, we start to network with different people, because we are aware that there are voices from our past that aren't serving us well, which might be, parents who were trying to be so supportive, but the way that they did it was unhelpful, by way of example, poking, into our plans, making, not questioning how we move forward. So then we replace that with more supportive circles. And that is where self-awareness is key, is saying, what stories from my past, from yesterday and going back, are no longer serving me well.
Yeah.
And then we say we replace those.
Yeah. But sorry to cut you short, Jana, but this thing you just mentioned is actually very important to mention, because I see a lot of people and they are in a situationship, friendship, relationship, wherever. You realize that maybe they're in the people, they don't get enough respect, or they are not liked, and they stay there. Then I start asking myself, why would you stay where you are not celebrated? I just don't get it. But it takes self-awareness for you to recognize, okay, you know what? I'm not getting the respect and love and attention I deserve. I need to get out of this friendship. These people are actually pulling me down, and find people who are more supportive for you. I realize a lot of people don't do that, like, because they're so. A lot of people are so, because of is our nature anyway. We all want to be part of a social group. We don't want to be socially alienated, so we want to make sure we are part of a group so that people will like us. We'll go to parties and so on and so forth. Frats, whatever, as the case may be. But if you are in a situation where the brotherhood, frat, whatever, and they do not they are not there for you, then they do not like you. I
Mm.
think the longer you stay there, if you're not self-aware, the longer you stay there, you lose yourself and lose your self-esteem. So I think it's something like actually young people need to be taught, like, if you are there, a friendship, whatever, and you don't get the respect you deserve, or like maybe like you guys are seated in a corner and everybody's trying to come up with a solution, and you bring your own idea and nobody listens to you. You need to stand up for yourself and say, this is not healthy for you, because if you keep doing that, if you're not self-aware that that's what's going on, you end up losing yourself, and you will be so it will affect your self-esteem to the point you will not have any voice anymore.
Yeah. It's real. There's a reason why I think we stay in certain friendships, relationships, partnerships. I think that goes back to narrative too. And what I mean by that is there's a reason. There's something about these stories that we've been told that create certain attachment styles, certain needs. We may have unmet needs that cause us to stay in those relationships, wanting to be in certain social circles. Our self-esteem has been shaped, and so for people to just get up and walk away isn't always that easy. It's, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Relationships are an interesting one as to the reasons why we stay where we stay.
Like I get a lot of people, because they yearn for love. Romantic relationship is actually different. That's fine. But when it comes to the friendship, especially like family, family was predetermined before we actually born. That's fine. That's okay. But the friendship part is the one I do not get. Because if you are in a friendship, you can always leave, especially when your friends do not respect you. You can always find
something that's gained. There's something to be gained from that friendship, which is the reason why they stay.
Okay, like what? What would you gain if you are self-aware that you don't get the respect you deserve? Okay, so what do you think people stand to gain that makes them to actually stay? I'm just curious.
Status,
okay,
protection. They may see that person as somebody who's strong. That's somebody that does stand up for them, even though they may be unkind to them, and they may be somebody that, I don't know, says things to other people, to kind of protect them. Finances, they may be somebody who treats them to dinner sometimes, and they may think it's great. I mean, there's so many different things that may seem a little silly to others looking in, but it's something that person
is valid, yeah.
And so while but that's anybody, right? Like on the outside looking into a lot of relationships, we might be able to be like, why are they doing that? But then when we're in a relationship, we're all in, we can't see anything else, right?
Yeah.
And then other people be like, oh, glad that's over. And it's like, what? And you're like, no, this was terrible. But you see it very differently. So I think that's what happens is, if we think about like marriages, for example, people can be in really unhealthy marriages.
True.
And not being valued in that marriage or respected, and a whole lot of other things taken advantage of, but stay because of status. Because if you can't get a divorce because the community will look at you terrible. You can't, move certain. It's just so many different reasons why we stay in any relationship. But let me be clear. I'm just going to go back. We talked about family. And so this is going against the grain a little bit. But, family could be left too. And I'm going to say that openly. Some families are abusive. And their way of thinking and the way of treating people in the name of family, it's abusive. And actually, we don't have to stay and continue to call this bloodline family that is actually outright abusing us. But I get it, we stay because that's family and we do it in the name of family. So I understand why people continue to tell that story. But it's not safe, and I don't want to miss an opportunity to say to people, this doesn't make it okay. Because it prevents you from being able to live your best life and live out your story in a way that's healthy and happy for you. And because you're now self-aware of it, it's so much more frustrating, but you don't know how to leave. Like, and leave doesn't mean that you have to never speak to them again. You know, leave could be creating a space that is safe for you, that's away from them. Or it can mean leaving them. You know, it's whatever you decide. It could mean, no, I'm not paying the family's bills anymore because you spent all the money. No, I'm not coming by for every, you know, Sunday afternoon meal because I don't feel good after I leave there, because I come and I'm making a success of my life and everybody makes it their business to pull me down, and I spend the next 6 days building up to have to come back to Sunday afternoon lunch to be pulled down again. You know, we can create these boundaries and say, you know what, I'm gonna come once a month, and that's if you feel like you need to, right? I'm just saying, you think about what feels safe and comfortable for you, because you might not be able to say to family, I hate the way you treat me, right? And that goes back to having conversations with parents as well. And I know people don't like this sometimes, but go ahead, talk to me. Say it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I know a lot of people struggle to, actually, family, parents, they don't know how to talk to parents. They are so scared to tell their parents what they don't like and what, man. Okay, in the African culture, African context, if you talk to your parents and tell them you don't like this, you don't like that, most of the time they think you're actually being rude and you're insulting them, which is not the case. You are just telling them what you do not like, because you are an adult, or you even if you're a child, you have the right to say, I don't like the way you're treating me. Like, you have the right to say that. Unless you know you've been bad and they are trying to caution you, then fine. But if you haven't done anything and you know they're treating you bad, you have to speak up for yourself. And but most of the time, the elders, when you tell them you don't like this, you don't like that, they feel like, oh, who is this small boy? Who is this small girl? Tell me anything. Who are you? You can't. Who told you can stand up to me? This. But, I think that's wrong. But it's something, I think at the end of the day, it affected a lot of people to the point that they are not confrontational.
Yeah.
So because of the way they grew up, when people do things to them, they don't know how to confront people and stand up for themselves, to tell people like, see, I hate this shit you're doing right now. You have to stop. Right. They won't be able to say anything. So it's either they just shut up and take it, or they just ghost the person.
Yeah.
But all these things, like you said, it's all down to self-awareness and actually knowing who you are and telling yourself, okay, do you know what? These are the things I like. These are the things I don't like. These are the things I tolerate. These are the things I cannot tolerate. For example, when I deal with people, I have this rule called 3 times rule. That's what I'll call it. Like, whenever anybody like whenever anybody, I rarely react. Trust me.
Wait, what do you call it? What do you call it?
I'll call it 3 times rule. That's what I call it. Like, right. What I mean is, whenever I'm dealing with anybody, I hardly react. But I know when I do things, they think I'm reacting, but I'm not. I'm actually responding at that point, because I always give the person 3 opportunities to do stuff. For example, let's say you come and tell me, Irene, you're an asshole, for example. And there's the way you say it, I'll start thinking, okay, Jana is having a bad day. That's okay. That's the first time. Do you see what I mean? She's having a bad day. That's okay. And I don't know what's going through her head. Maybe she's having a bad day. But if you do it repeatedly 3 times, you're not having a bad day anymore. You are not doing it deliberately. Do you see what I mean? Then you have to tell the person and put the person in his or her place. And when you do that, most people start thinking, oh, this guy is now reacting. But it's not reacting. It's actually I'm actually responding at that point, because I actually counted. I made sure I counted. And
what?
I know. But the point I'm trying to say is all down to self-awareness, because once you do it, I'm aware that you've actually done that, and I'm counting it for you now. Because once somebody's being rude to you, and you let it fester, it's going to continue. This is what I mean. So you have to be self-aware to know that whether it is mildly or you know how people can actually like be rude to others in a very funny, joking way. Make sure you are aware of it. You see what I mean? Make sure you make note of it to actually know that, so that when you start putting the person in his or her place, the person will know that you've always known that the person has been rude to you. So the point I'm trying to make here is a lot of people still are not still self-aware to realize that such things are actually happening to them.
Yeah.
And I'm sat there looking at them, and people talk to them, and you realize this girl can't actually make it sounds like a joke, but this person actually being condescending towards this girl now or this guy now, and he still or she can't see it. I'm like, okay. I won't say anything, but then you let it linger and linger and linger, and the person will now the person will now lose respect for you and start talking to you anyhow. Do you see what I mean? So the point I'm trying to say is, just like you said, do you think self-awareness is something we can start developing at a young age, not just without parents now? Don't get me wrong, I know you've mentioned parents. Now, is this something you think we can actually start developing at a young age on our own through our environment, or is it something we pick up on as we grow older? What do you think?
What you mean by on our own in our environment? Like, how would that work? What you mean? On
our own, for example, like something will happen to you, and like deja vu. You feel like this thing has happened to you before, and you start telling yourself, okay, this seems like a pattern now. Am I always the one attracting this to me, or am I the one causing this problem? This is what I mean. Like, at a young age, do you think it's something we do at a young age, or is something we do later in life when we are much older and we're now more wiser to actually reflect deep and say, okay, do you know what? I think this is a pattern now and I have to cut it short. Or do you think it's something we can actually start from a young age without parents, without the aid of parents to actually guide us and say, this is what it is? Do you think it's something young children can actually do on their own?
Well, I guess we're only as wise as our experiences and the sense we make of those experiences. So I'm trying to think about a young child. So I'm going to say, let's go with 10 and under. Maybe we're creating some understanding.
Yeah.
Do I think that the child will somehow magically be able to increase their self-awareness without any guidance from any of the adults or other persons within their life? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it depends on, the only way I can think about that happening, and realistically, this is what came to my mind, is that there's some spiritual connection that they have that helps them to increase their self-awareness. That's it. Because if you're not, if we're eliminating all the people in your life being able to be the ones to give that to you, then maybe there's something spiritual that's happening, or maybe this is just one very intuitive and attuned child that, is able to get that. But I guess for me, I'm thinking that most of this happens through experience with others. So to completely eliminate that they got it from anywhere else, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think about how that would be possible. Unless they're somehow exposed to it in some way. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about being exposed to it. And like I said, maybe it could be some spiritual connection, but if you only know what you know. So if you lock a child in a room, and only feed them and teach them to walk on all fours, then that's all that they will ever know, right? Until exposed to new experiences. So I guess, as you get older, yes, you do. To me, it's still connected with others. Unless, if parents don't want to do it or they don't do it, fine. But there's still some other person, reading material, experience of some sort, hearing a radio podcast or something, that you start to take in new information. That's how I see it. And maybe if I was to reflect on it further, maybe something else will come to my mind. But can a child do this? Yes, I think we do have children that are probably, like I said, more self-aware than others for whatever the reasons are. It may be some nature, it may be some nurture combination. and some that are less aware or completely unaware, right? In some ways. I guess it maybe just depends on the person. It depends on the child and what they do. But I just think it would be so much easier if we had adults in our lives as children to be able to model behavior.
Okay. One last thing before we wrap it up now. So how do you think let's say there's the person is actually struggling with self-awareness, how do you think the person can actually go about it to actually become more self-aware?
Okay. So one of the first steps that I would say, acknowledge that you're trying to increase this self-awareness. Start to identify more of your triggers. So more of your possibly thinking patterns, maybe noticing those kind of automatic thoughts that are coming up, noticing more of your behaviors, right? I'm constantly doing this, and it's not serving me well. Starting to notice that. Also starting to identify more with your emotions. What is it that I'm really experiencing? I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm hurt, whatever it is that you might be experiencing. And also being able to acknowledge more of what's happening with your body. Okay. So for example, we want to think about, is there constantly tension, within your shoulders? Do you have heart palpitations? Do you constantly get sweaty palms or headaches or, shakiness, whatever it might be, right? So it's connecting with your thoughts, connecting with your behaviors, connecting more with your emotions, connecting more with your body, right? And recognizing that all four of those things are actually connected.
Yeah.
So our thoughts, our behaviors, our bodily sensations, and our emotions are all connected.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly experiencing them. So starting to notice more what's going on with you on a daily basis. And I would encourage people to be able to keep a record of it so they can start to create some patterns in their life. And you don't have to tell a long story about your day. It could be bullet point form,
So that's like journaling then?
Yeah, some journaling. Some journaling could be really helpful, but let me be clear, because I think people kind of get turned off when it comes to journaling. So because they think they have to write lots and lots and lots of words. That's the reason why I intentionally said it could be in bullet point form. What is the situation? What were you thinking? The immediate thoughts. How were you behaving? Just capturing that. What was happening with your body? Tension in shoulders, shakiness, whatever the case may be. And also the single word emotion. I was sad, afraid, jealous, angry, whatever the case may be, right? Really clear on that. And starting to create more patterns, right? So you're noticing, oh my goodness, whenever I'm thinking this way, I behave this way. Oh, that's not serving me well. And start to find an alternative way to think, an alternative way to behave. And sometimes we can't always come up with an alternative way to think because it could feel like it's too much. But if we start to choose a healthier behavior, then that can help to change our thinking over time. Right? So this would be my kind of, that's my immediate go-to. And actually that's called is a cross-sectional formulation. It's called the hot cross bun. Yeah. And it's from a cognitive behavioral therapy model, but I absolutely love it because it's so easy for people to start to grasp and hold on to as they increase their own self-awareness. And so I have conversation in hot cross bun. They're like, all right, you know what? I was thinking this, I was behaving this way. This is what I was doing, right? And that's just one of many ways. It's just one of the cool ones that I like to use. And then after that, after creating some patterns there, start to think about, where did that come from? Why do I respond that way? And you might be able to think back a little bit. Some of it might be childhood. Some of it might have been some adult relationships and friendships, different things that happen, and start to say, you know what? Oh my goodness. The reason why I respond that way is because at school, I was never allowed to get anything wrong. So now I have this fear of failure. Every time I make a mistake, I feel like I've just totally failed. And so
that's
I think
valid.
I'm a character.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just kind of examples of what I think. And then by being aware of it, you start to give yourself permission to notice when it's coming up and say, nah, that story doesn't belong to me anymore. And you can gently put a lot of love around yourself and find a new way of thinking, right? Like, that self-love is important. Being able to say, all right, I know where it comes from. I'm just going to put some love around me, and I'm going to start to write this story differently. And that's for all of us. That's for men, women. It's for everyone. Like, we all have something to heal and grow from. And it's okay, even, within our personal space, to be able to take that and allow ourselves to move forward,
True.
So that's what I would say.
True. Well, that's a lovely way to that's a lovely way to actually look at it, and a lovely way to end things as well.
Yes.
It's been a lovely time talking to you, Jana.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you having me. If people want to know more, they can follow me on Instagram, Mayvera Wellness, Mayvera Wellness, WELLNESS. You can email me there as well, mayverawellness@gmail. I'm on Facebook as well. So yeah, if people want to learn more, I'm always happy to have this conversation to support people with increasing their self-awareness, so that they can commence their healing journey.
Yeah, I'm not sure I mentioned it at the beginning, but Jana is a clinical psychologist. Would I say clinical psychologist?
I'm a counseling psychologist.
Counseling psychologist. So yeah, so it's been a lovely time talking to you, Jana, and hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, I'm done. I have fun.
Yeah,
I appreciate you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Jana. I'll see you soon. Yeah.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah.